I'm really happy to be here today to do a book reading with my co-author Ian Michler on an amazing story called A Tale of Three Lions. My name is Sylvia Medina. I'm the president and co-author of this book, and I'd like to go ahead and introduce Ian Michler, who is one of the creators of Blood Lion. Ian?
Hi Sylvia, and wonderful to be here with you this afternoon. I look forward to reading our co-production and then giving a little further insight into the Bloodlines project.
Okay, well, I'm going to get started then, okay? Sasha watched her three cubs rolling and playing about as she lounged by the water hole. The hot sun bore down on the savannah, and many other creatures, including some of her sister lions, had gathered around the precious life-sustaining pool. Earlier that morning, before the sun was up, Sasha had taught her sons how to hunt. There were plenty of impalas roaming about it, and it was only a matter of time before the younger cubs caught one. Her oldest cub was named Tao. He was a brave little lion who loved to hunt. Her two younger cubs, Mayo and Kimbo, were not so eager to hunt just yet. They preferred to toss and tumble, playfully tackling one another. As she watched her strong young cubs pounce and roll, she said to herself, "I'll let them play until they are worn out and ready to sleep. Then I'll go find us some food." That evening, Sasha told her cubs, "I'm going into the bush to hunt. The three of you must stay here and wait for me. Tao, you are in charge of your younger brothers. Make certain they stay put. I'll return soon with our food." As soon as their mother was gone, Tao addressed Mayo and Kibo. "You heard Mama. I'm in charge. You two must do as I say and not wander far." "I'm too tired anyway," Mayo said. "Me too," Kibo replied. "I need to sleep."
The three cubs settled in under a tree and dozed off. A while later, just as a rosy sunset lit up the sky, Tao opened one eye. "What was that?" he said to himself. Human voices, at first muted, slowly became louder. Tao sprang to his paws and let out the loudest roar he could manage. It was too late. A net soared through the air and landed on top of his brothers. They growled and clawed at the net, but they were trapped. Tao ran away as fast as he could. Tao hid deep in the bush. He could hear the distant shouts of the poachers as they celebrated their catch. Soon, he heard the grinding sounds of their vehicles as they took off. "Mio, Kibo," he cried out as taillights faded into the darkness. His mother would be upset that he hadn't protected his brothers. Tao bolted from the bush and followed the men, tracking them to the nearby village. He hid inside the grove of trees and watched as the men unloaded his two brothers from the vehicles. Mio and Kibo were locked in steel crates. They growled and snarled as they clawed at the sides of the enclosures. A man with a large tattoo on his arm smiled as he emerged from a hut. He looked inside Mio's crate and exclaimed, "He's perfect. I'll take good care of him." The other truck took Kibo and sped off. Tao watched as his brother disappeared down the rutted path. Where are they taking him? He wondered. Tao ran back to the water hole and waited for his mother to return. Soon she emerged from the bushes. "Boys, I have caught something delicious." She looked around before she addressed Tao. "Where are your brothers?" she asked anxiously. His aunties wandered over to where they stood in the moonlight. "Yes, where are Mio and Kibo?" they asked. Tao explained about the poachers and what had happened. "It's all my fault, Mama. I didn't look out for my brothers, as you asked." "Tao, this isn't your doing," his mother replied sadly. "There's nothing you can do. We're all in danger every day from these bad humans, these poachers. We must hope for the best and move on. Perhaps your brothers will return to us someday. I've heard of humans who help lions as well. Let's hope that this is the case with Meo and Kebo. Tao was miserable. He missed his brothers, biting his tail and hopping on his back. He mourned his brothers for months and months. In time, Tao grew to be strong and powerful, with a big golden mane crowning his regal lion head. He feared nothing and had a brave lion heart. One day, he looked out over the savannah in the direction of the village. It's time for me to seek out my brother Meo. Perhaps he can tell me where Kebo is, and I can bring them both home. Our journey to the village. He arrived at the hut where he had seen the tattooed man. There were many surrounding buildings as well. He crept around the buildings, making sure no humans were about. Soon, he came upon a tall fence that seemed to go on forever. Beyond the fence, a group of lions was lounging in the shade of the trees. One of the male lions shook his great mane and rose to his feet. He came running over to the fence. "Tao, my brother," the lion said. "Meo, it's you," Tao roared with excitement. "I'm so glad I found you at last. How are you, my dear little brother?" "I'm fine, Tao. They treat us well here, as this is a recognized sanctuary. They don't allow humans to pet or play with us, and we will not be hunted. Though I do fear that I can't say the same for our brother Kibo. I've heard from some cats who arrived here recently that he is in a place where humans aren't so kind to lions." "I must go," Tao replied, "and find this place. I must save our brother so that we can all be together again." "It's far away, Tao," Meo said. "It'll take you many days to get there." "It's no matter," Tao replied, lifting his great mane proudly. "I'm strong and can hunt along the way." Tao set out upon his journey and in 2 days arrived at the place where his brother Kebo was being kept. He circled the area, always hiding in the bushes or behind trees, and observed the small compound. Inside one small fenced area, children and adults laughed as they played with the young cubs. "This looks bad," Tao said to himself. He wandered further and soon came upon some cages that held several mid-sized lions. Inside one of the cages, a human was hitting a lion with a stick. The lion growled and batted the stick away with his great paw. "It's Kebo," Tao whispered. Tao waited until it was dark before he crept up to the cage where his brother lay. Tao was heartbroken at the sight. Kebo was tied to a pole and could barely move. He was surrounded by filth and garbage. "Kebo," Tao whispered. "It's Tao, your brother. I've come to take you home." Kebo looked up. His yellow eyes flashed in moonlight. "Tao, is it really you? Please take me away from this awful place and these terrible people. I hear that I'll soon be taken away to a place where they'll put me in an enclosed area and allow hunters to kill me. I've heard from one lion here that this was our father's fate." Tao studied the cage. The bars were very tall and he couldn't leap over them. He looked over at the gate with its big, heavy lock. "I know what you are thinking," Kebo said, "but there is a way. In the morning, just as the sun rises, a man will come to feed me a few scraps. He always leaves the gate open, as he is lazy and forgetful. He doesn't even secure these ropes that bind me. When he comes with my breakfast, you guard the man while I break free. I'll run into the bush and wait for you to follow me." "Done," Tao said. "I'll see you when the sun rises." The next morning, Tao waited until he saw the man approach Kebo's cage. The man yawned as he set down a large bucket of scraps and unlocked the gate. As soon as he entered, Tao charged. With a ferocious roar, he ran into the cage and faced the man, who dropped his bucket and cried out. Kebo lunged, snapping the ropes that held him. He darted from the cage. The man reached for a long stick that lay nearby. It had a sharp knife strapped to the end of it. The man began to poke at Tao, stabbing him in the face and ribs. Tao battered the blade away with his great paws, and they began to bleed. He tried to move toward the open gate, but the man had him cornered. Tao's roars grew louder and more panicked. All at once, Tao was shaken by the loudest roar he had ever heard. A huge lion with fiery eyes and a great flowing mane leaped into the center of the cage. The man screamed and dropped the stick. The great lion stood on his hind legs and put his massive paws on the man's shoulders, pressing him against the bars. Tao blinked as a memory from long ago flashed in his mind. "Father, is it you?" he said. "Run, Tao, now!" the great lion roared. Tao was bewildered, but he did as his father asked. He ran from the cage into the bush, tracking Kebo's path. He soon caught up with his brother and told him what had happened. "I've seen the great lion you speak of," Kebo said. "He is not treated with respect, and the men are cruel to him. I had heard he was to be sent away soon to the hunting place. I had no idea he was our father." Tao hunted down a wildebeest so Kebo and he could eat. When they were full, they traveled with great speed until they arrived back at Mayo's sanctuary. "Kebo, Tao!" Mayo shouted as they approached the fence. "You've returned. I'm so glad you both are safe." "What shall we do now?" Tao asked. "We need to be together." "No, Tao," Mayo replied. "All is well. This is a good place for lions that have not been brought up in the wild. Leave Kebo here. We will never be petted, beaten, or left to hunters. We're loved and well cared for by our humans." Tao looked up at Kebo. "Is that okay with you, brother?" "It's fine, Tao," Kebo replied. "Mayo and I will be together, and you can go home to mother. We're not used to hunting like you. We'll be better off here. You must go and meet a mate and have children of your own." All at once, a loud roar rang out. The young lions turned and saw their father approaching, his deep brown mane gleaming in the sunlight. He was leading a large group of lions, even some little cubs. He had freed the others from the bad place. They all gathered around Tao and his brothers. "Father," Tao cried out, "you escaped, and you brought the other lions." "My sons," he said proudly. He looked at Tao. "Mayo is right. You need to go to your mother. I and the others will remain here, where the humans treat lions with respect and dignity. We're no longer strong like you and the other wild lions, and will not be able to catch our food. You must go before you are discovered." Tao was sad to leave his father and brothers. He roared a sad farewell, promising to return and bring their mother for a visit. As he walked away, a man with a tattoo on his arm emerged from his hut. When he saw Tao's father and the other lions, he called out to his helpers, "Come quickly. We have many new lions. They need food and water." Tao smiled. His father and big cat brothers would be okay.
So I just want to take a moment to thank you for the impactful work that Bloodlines has done and what you've done to bring the attention to the world, the international stage. And hopefully, the story we wrote, will get out to, children and people to understand what's going on in our world and see what we can all do to make a difference, because, there's always hope, and if we stop hoping that things aren't going to get better, then they're not going to get better. But we do have to roll up our sleeves and do what each one of us can do. So I thank you so much for what you've done, Ian. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sylvia, and thanks to Green Kids Club and everyone, because it was your idea to do this project. So if it hadn't been for you and your energy from the beginning, it wouldn't have happened. So huge thanks to you as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Well, you have a good evening and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.